Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends. And of course, as if every other Wednesday doesn't seem to be breaking news, has anyone taken the time to check out what is going on at GDC? I mean, wow. I mean, we're specifically what we're going to get into is what happened when Ninja Theory showed off a UE5 tech demo with Senua. And all I can say, folks, is if you are an Xbox fan and you have been waiting for that God of War or Uncharted or Last of Us epic, over the shoulder, third person, story driven, real life graphics type of a game, it looks like they are going to deliver in spades. And I mean, wow. It just continues to blow my mind what Ninja Theory does. Remember, they're still considered a small team, and they have delivered. When again, watch the video. When it transitions from real person to Unreal Engine 5, it's literally seamless. But before we get into that, second part of the topic, of the topics today is going to be a lot of the information that have come out of FOSS on Twitter. He has been dropping news bombs left and right. And the more we see Sony have these complaints and Microsoft make answer to these complaints with literally giving everything and the kitchen sink, I'll say it, I'm not going to curse, but it appears that Jim Ryan and Sony are effed because none of their BS is going to be believed. As a matter of fact, Hargeet Chani just reminded me in the green room that the EU Commission has completely removed any PlayStation talk, concern, or mention out of their remedies. The only thing that came out of remedies was, of course, for cloud, and Microsoft has answered that again in spades. It appears that good old Jimmy boy, all those crocodile tears are for nothing. Hargeet Chani, you're sitting there laughing, brother. What's going on? How you feeling?
Well, I'm getting over some sort of stomach flu thing, but
man, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, other than that, I've been pretty good. I've been that has kind of taken up the last few days, so I haven't really been able to play much, unfortunately. But before that, I did play some Halo, some Wolong. I've been playing some other games as well. So yeah, and this information just keeps coming out. It's fun stuff for ABK, and
it's like a broken faucet.
Yeah, I haven't. I actually got to catch the Unreal thing as well. I watched the whole thing. They've got some interesting stuff going on there, especially with the inside Fortnite stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. The Dutch, you were talking about that in the green room. That Fortnite building creation tool seems to be not only next gen or next level, but man, lot to get into. But like I said, we're as great as Fortnite is, and like I said, they always get me with a new character. I buy it. I don't even play the game because, well, I want the said character. We got to get into Senua. I mean, wow, dude. Like, it was, like, I think it's honestly, I'm not being, like, facetious. It is literally game-changing. That's how good it is. How you doing, brother? Welcome back.
Yeah. I'm good. I'm doing very good, actually. It's insane. The funniest thing about that little tiny 1 minute segment we got for it was that we couldn't distinguish between what was Melissa Juergens and what was Senua. Like, it was like, where was the transition between her actual face and Senua's face? And only at the end, when it zoomed out, you were like, okay, that was Melissa Juergens, and there was a face cam and etc. But at the beginning, where it was a transition between a real face and Senua, that was just very hard to distinguish between the two. It's just unbelievable. And this is one of the most exciting times of the year because I'm a big kind of tech behind the magic kind of guy. So I love to see how it works, how it's created, etc. And this time of year where they show off the tech behind all of this stuff that we're going to be playing over the next few years, it's such an exciting time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to talk about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I cannot wait to get into it. First of all, let's welcome in from Fun Speculation, Mav. Thanks so much for joining us, brother. We definitely appreciate you being here as Everborn Saga is out with his dad. His dad had a major surgery. Prayers, hugs, and kisses. Guess what, folks? He's doing great. and he's spending time with family. Super important. That. So obviously, if you are a friend of Everborn Saga, send him all the love and prayers you can muster up, because, well, he definitely needs that. And our good friend Kei Asante, well, he's taking care of his little one who's not feeling well. We'll get those gentlemen back next week. How you feeling?
Oh, doing pretty good. I'm like the substitute right now. I feel pretty good being in here at big shoes to fill with those two, because they can both talk. That's for sure, especially Everborn. Shout out to him.
All you gotta do is mention Sonic, and he's off he goes.
Yeah. I hope he is doing well, and his whole family and everything. But yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. I just got home. I wasn't sure what time I was gonna be home tonight, but I just got home and I saw the message, so I was like, yes, let's do this thing, because there's a lot to talk about, and primetime gaming is one of the best places to talk. Period.
I appreciate that, brother. Yes, so thank you very much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Hey, Crispy Bomb, what's going on, brother? How you feeling? Welcome back.
Oh, we are Carolina Reaper spicy today.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the copium. Do you need some milk, people? Can you just, like, because I'm sitting back with my popcorn and I'm just like, oh, here's a jab. Here's a jab. Oh, here's a jab. I don't know, man. Oh, exclusives matter now. Oh, Redfall is good now. Oh man, Hellblade's not just some like afterthought now. Oh, we've already been telling you this for a long time. So sorry. Time to get with the program and realize that Xbox got games, people. They got games.
Indeed, they do. We knew they had games for years there, Crispy. But a lot of people did not read the tea leaves as we have. And guess what? Now they have even more games, and Redfall being one of those games that PlayStation gamers are not going to get, and they're up in a tizzy. But guess what, folks? As tantalizing as that story is to talk about, we're not covering it here. But I promise you, tomorrow on XVlog Live at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm sitting down with Skullsy TV to talk Bethesda, to talk Redfall specifically. We're also going to find out why Starfield being exclusive to Xbox is a bad thing for the gaming media, because, well, a lot of people don't seem to like that. They want everything on PlayStation. We're going to be breaking it down, and you're probably going to see a very, very spicy Skullsy TV who is raring to go. And speaking of raring to go, Mag, first of all, thanks so much for giving me so many shout-outs. I almost felt like I was paying for the advertisement on Colt's show. Great show with you and Colt. Love what you guys do over there. Colt put out an outstanding Redfall video today. He got flown out to LA. He got a chance to hang out with the devs. He got a bunch of footage that he put up there on his YouTube channel. And, well, Colt does what Colt does. He is a great video producer. Go over and check that out. But Mag, how you doing, brother? Sir. We got some new information from ABK that it's kind of setting up Jimmy Boy to fail on his mission to block the deal.
Yeah, well, you know what? We knew the day was going to come. It was going to happen anyway. It just happened. Now it's all coming together. You know what I mean? So it's like watching one of those movies where it's got multiple storylines, and the next thing you know, that's it. It's all coming together to the end now, and now everybody's going to show up in the same scene together, and that's pretty much what's happening. So I'm glad to see this sort of slowly winding down, and then we can move on from here to better and brighter horizons. Of course, we had the Unreal showcase today, which was great. We'll get into that too. I am the direct opposite of Dutch, though. See, I know Dutch wants to see I don't want to know how the sausage is made. I don't want to see that stuff. I don't want to peek behind the curtain, because I just want to sit in front of the TV and go, holy crap, how did they do that? Wow. And I just want to leave it at that, because I don't want to know, because I want that magic to be there for me. But the tech heads, man, God bless you guys. That's what you guys love to do, and I'm glad you guys are getting to see this amazing stuff that's going on. And by the way, Hargeet, the reason why you got a stomach ache is because you're always drinking that gigantic jug of vodka. You should probably slow down. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I just saw it. Yeah, you should slow down on that vodka. That's a lot. I mean,
water. It's literally 2 liters of water.
I don't know, man. 2 liters of vodka every single podcast. That's a lot, dude. Even for me. But anyways,
that's hilarious.
Kei Asante, and of course Everborn. We'll see you guys all next week, obviously. So hope all is well, and sending all our love to our brothers out there. So anyways, we got a great show to get into tonight. Let's get right into it.
You know what? Let's open up with GDC, folks. Obviously, now you heard Wandering Dutch, who we're going to go to first on this because he is our tech expert, if you will, when it comes to putting stuff together graphically. Because if you didn't know, he's a graphic designer. He has made intros for a lot of people. He has done overlays for me. He has the talent, and more importantly, folks, he has the know-how. Listen, Wandering Dutch, there has been a lot of speculation in regards to Hellblade 2. Right. We know that Hellblade 1 was made by a team of 20 people. Right. And we heard when they started development of Hellblade 2 that they have doubled their team to, it was 43. I think it was the final count when it was announced, a whole 43 people. Now, if there's anything that is known about Ninja Theory specifically, it's how well they do mocap or motion capture. Right. And they are the masters of doing it. Senua looked amazing, obviously, when she first arrived on the scene. And at that point was a PlayStation exclusive. People don't seem to remember that. And now, we have had a chance to see Hellblade 2 or Senua Saga Hellblade 2 a couple of times. It was shown at the Game Awards. It surprised everybody right alongside the Series X announcement. The next year, we got a chance. We got to see some gameplay, which looked amazing. But to be honest with you, if you go back and you look at what was announced first, and you look at what was announced second, and now you try and match it up with what was shown off today, and mind you, it's only a minute, folks. It's only 1 minute. It was incredible. Like like I said, you said it, and I'm glad you said it because I don't have a trained eye for it. So for me, the transition, just I was in awe from human being to UE5. Let's talk about it, brother. This is an Xbox exclusive. Right? It's coming obviously to PC, but it is an Xbox exclusive. It is one of those games that Sony is currently known for. Third person, story driven, lifelike type of graphics. And this might be that one game that starts an avalanche for Microsoft, or specifically for Xbox. Wow, I mean, what an exclusive! Talk about what we saw today. Even though it's a minute, it did. I put it this way: you know how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think what they showed off today was worth 1,000,000 words.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the picture. Actually, there was a little disclaimer underneath the video that said we recommend headphones. The 3D audio work that they've got in that just little minute as well, and literally outdoes what we've heard in Hellblade 1. So it's just phenomenal. So what they showed off in that little 1 minute segment was what they class as MetaHuman, which is Unreal Engine's next evolution of face scanning and face mapping, which is what they're working heavily on to make sure that every character in that game is as mapped, as detailed as possible. Specifically, of course, Melissa Juergens playing Senua. So what was really hard to distinguish in that video was that, especially that opening segment where it has Melissa Juergens / Senua without all of the Hellblade makeup on and all of the kind of armor and things on, and then transitions very, very sweetly into what was Senua. And the transition between the two is pretty seamless, to the point where it's actually very hard to distinguish between what is Unreal and what is Melissa Juergens. And of course, the only time you truly know that it was face captured was at the very end, where it pans out and you see the whole face cam rig sitting on Melissa, and she's wearing it over her shoulders and things like that, and you see how it's been mapped in. But it's such a high level of detail going into that. And again, when I've said, and you mentioned that before, they started as a studio with only 20-25 heads working on Hellblade 1. They did double it at the beginning of production to around 40-50. They're sitting now at a kind of a total team size of anywhere between 120 to 150 working on Hellblade, and total of about 200 heads working at Ninja Theory in total, including on other projects. But it's the work that's went into them, and this is what I've mentioned for a number of years now, is that acquisition was very astute when they brought Ninja Theory on board. They saw the capabilities of that studio, not from just what they've created with Hellblade 1, but from a technical standpoint. they saw that studio wanted to push the boundaries of where what games could do, not just graphically, but from an audio perspective as well. They fully understood the premise on trying to really immerse people into the game. And of course, for anybody who's played Hellblade 1 know that the audio plays a very key part of that game in immersion. Into this one, what they're doing in terms of audio and visual kind of immersion is just absolutely next level. It is one of the crowning jewels in Microsoft's crown. That alongside with the Coalition, alongside I would say Playground Games, and Turn 10 with Forza Tech, I think the absolute mastery that are Ninja Theory and Coalition with Unreal, I think serves the entirety of the Xbox portfolio very well going forward for those working with Unreal Engine 5. But we also, on top of that, saw what is capable, not just with Hellblade there, but with the rest of the engine, with Quixel, which is kind of a part of their tool on the new Unreal Engine 5 update that allows the mapping of terrain. So the auto mapping of terrain, so you can go in and figuratively put it all in manually as a certain section.
Yep.
The tool then allows that system to understand what it is you're trying to create, and then it can auto place the environment around that, and you can simply and easily transition between what you want to do and create a huge open world around that in itself. But all of these tools is exactly what we're getting with Hellblade. It is definitely, I would say, probably the first one we'll see that showcases exactly what this generation can do. In terms of, especially for Unreal, it is going to be one of Unreal's big standout games that they'll be able to look at and say, this is what our engine can do.
Yep.
And quite a few games that have been showcased at GDC already today, that have been showcasing certain lighting, like the nanite and lumen technology, etc., in full flow. And it looks all of them look phenomenal, but so far, outside of just this is what the environments can look like, which we know already now, the environments are going to look unbelievably detailed from top to bottom, from both a fidelity point of view, a level of detail, but also from a lighting perspective. But now we know that kind of further extends, specifically with the whole Senua clip there. And again, it's only a minute so far.
Right.
I fully expect Ninja Theory will be probably doing a little bit of a longer tech demo further later on this week. But so far, what that showcases is just how crazily detailed and how ultra realistic this engine's become. It becomes, at this point, a tool that is so hard to pass by that it makes it almost impossible for proprietary engines to keep up with the technologies that are being pushed, both by internal studios and external. And by that, I mean both at Microsoft, of course. Thankfully, they've got id Tech, Unreal Engine, and a number of other awesome engines running there. Now, that is very limited across the board when it comes to other competitors. Now, we know that Nintendo use a couple of their games on Unreal, but not many. Sony are very much proprietary. They use Gorilla's engine most of the time. They've used Decima a lot. They have a lot of proprietary engines that they focus on. My only thing with that is they're going to have to get the same results for Sony further on in the generation to keep up with Epic and Unreal. They're going to have to make a lot of changes and invest a lot of money into all of these engines for them to keep up with the lighting technology and the pace in which developers will be able to create games using Unreal Engine as a platform. And that's across the board. Now, Epic have made it very clear for all developers that this is a platform that they can create their games with very little output from themselves. For instance, if you're going to create a game using Unreal Engine, all of your money up to 1 million, so until it hits 1,000,001, everything up until 1 million earned, $1 million earned, or £1 million earned, is entirely yours. There is no tax on that from Epic. Everything above 1 million is when they then say, okay, we're taking a slice of that. So from Unreal and Epic as an engine for indie developers, both Unity and Epic, as two separate engines there, are without doubt the most preferable platform for any indie developer to get into it, because you're guaranteed to make money without being taxed on it by Unreal all the way up until $1 million, which is insane. And for an indie developer, that's a mountain. That is a mountain of profit that you can get from that. Now, naturally, of course, from proprietary engines, and this is what I think why Sony probably try to avoid it, is obviously they don't want to pay Epic or Unity or anybody money to use them when they've got their own proprietary engines. So it saves them money by not paying them.
It's funny you say that, because they don't want to pay, but yet they charge Epic for crossplay. I'm just saying, you know,
it's insane. But for me, going forward this generation, it would be hard pressed to find another engine. And this is another benefit, and this is a major benefit to Halo going on to Unreal. And this is from a development standpoint. From a development standpoint, instead of trying to bring in secondary developers or developers that have never worked on Slipspace before and trying to bring them in, first having to train them on the engine, that'll maybe take several weeks, if not a month, couple of months to get them used to the engine itself, then start working on the product. And by that point, you're already behind schedule. So instead of that, the entire thing's on Unreal. It's a proprietary, it's an engine that every developer is very well versed on, regardless, because everyone's worked with Unreal who develops. They know how to work that engine, top to bottom. They come in, they already know the engine, they can just get to work immediately. It makes development process so much easier. And this is the same thing with hiring developers across the board. If you bring on to an engine that's very well versed across the platform, the developers that you bring in are going to be over the moon that they'll be able to just get into it immediately. They're going to know the tools. They're going to understand them. They're going to just take to it like a duck in water. What we're seeing from Unreal Engine, from Nanite, Lumen, Quixel, from MetaHuman, and everything that's been shown off already is just what we expected at the beginning of this generation for the next generation to look like. And I think over the next year and next year, when these games from Unreal Engine 5 start dropping, that's when we're going to go, this is next gen. This is the current gen. This is what we expected. And this is why I'm so hyped, especially right now when you start seeing these things kind of getting shown off. There's a number of games. You can go on to YouTube now, and there's a number of games outside of that have been shown off today at GDC on Unreal. And they're all looking absolutely fantastic. So,
yeah, I got a question for you from Sin in the chat. He says, was everything before the mark of 031 in Unreal Engine 5 as well?
No.
Okay.
And that's why it becomes hard to distinguish. So
yeah, it transitioned from her as the actor to Senua. And I thought that the Senua aspect was where the Unreal Engine 5 part took over.
Yeah, so it's a slight bit before that. It's still when she looks like Melissa Juergens when it transitions. Okay. So it's just before that. So it's a section where she's kind of looking down like that, and it still looks like Melissa Juergens. That's when it's Unreal Engine 5. And then it kind of does this shadow over the face, and it's already transitioned before that point. So it's a few seconds before that. It's about 5 seconds prior to that it's transitioned. It's phenomenal. It's really hard to distinguish, though.
Yeah, you know, and see, I think that's the trick. I think really that is the trick right there, where you are, as a human being, seeing this with your own eyes, the transition from a person to the game, and you're not exactly sure when that was. See, that is what is incredible about Unreal Engine 5, but more importantly, that is what's incredible at Ninja Theory. They're known for a lot of really good things, but one of the things that jump off the page is how to make real life like graphics. We've seen it in Hellblade 1. We've seen it in a few of their other games. Obviously, they were using Unreal Engine 3 and 4 at those games, and they looked phenomenal then. I cannot wait to see what this game looks like. It's like when it's
Well,
running.
boom. One thing to add to that as well, and there's another thing that a lot of developers do, but I don't think have done to the extent of Ninja Theory this time round on Hellblade 2. What they've done and painstakingly done is literally mapped out, photo scanned every item of clothing used.
Wow.
Physically photo scanned everything in, so every item of clothing that she's wearing has been photo scanned in to the game. They've made it physically first, so everything that she's wearing has been made physically. They've then scanned that into the game. Every prop has been made physically and then scanned into the game. So everything that's in the game for Senua and the environment has been photo scanned in. So it's not just a case of, well, we've just used assets that are in Unreal. They've used their own photogrammetry. Everything that is being created and is in Hellblade 2 is photogrammetry. It's been scanned in physically from physical objects that they have created by hand. So, so it's even more insane level of detail than people, I think, can probably imagine right now. It's insane the level of work they've put in.
Real quick, just while we have you here, Dutch, Michael Mooney dropped a very generous £5 super chat. So thank you so much for that, Michael. He asked a question that I don't have the answers to. You probably do. Should Xbox do a Linux style fork of Unreal Engine, then bring technologies from its other engines into Unreal? Meaning that I guess maybe cross pollinate Unreal Engine 5 with, I don't know, maybe id Tech.
To be honest, they do. They've got a number of things already, and it's obviously not. It's difficult to what you would say is essentially transition parts of an engine into another part of an engine. But what they can do is build the same tools within an engine that you would have in separate engines. So if you've got a particular tool that is in id Tech that can do X, Y, or Z, you can essentially recreate that particular tool within Unreal. You can build your own tools within the platform in itself. So yes, they already do that. So if there's anything that they need that they can use from other engines and they really particularly want it, then yeah, that's absolutely a possibility. So for instance, if it was Halo, for instance, and we know id Tech's a really great shooter engine, but you also want the level of fidelity and the level of detail and the simplicity of creating something using Unreal, but also have all the technology from Unreal. You can essentially say, okay, guys, well, what's the method behind the madness when it comes to the id Tech shooter kind of physics and the workings around that, and you can kind of break it down, reverse engineer it, and then build that into Unreal if you want to as your own proprietary kind of offshoot from Unreal. So yeah, that's a thing. Unreal comes as its own self-explanatory engine, but every studio has their own sub-engines within Unreal that they've created themselves that work for their specific games. And of course, porting them over to next Unreals is very easy. But of course, that's still their proprietary kind of method that they've created themselves. So yes is the answer in short form, but long form it's a little bit more detailed.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I appreciate you having the answers, because I wouldn't be able to answer. I'm not a techie guy like that, but I am going to say thank you. Listen, Matt, let's get your hot take on this, brother. I don't know how technical you are, as Wandering Dutch, one of our top class panel members here. But I got to tell you, dude, you know your stuff because you're always talking about it on PM and the PM, specifically with Palm, who also knows a lot about the tech and appreciates what's in front of you guys. What were your actual takeaways from what you saw today? Even though it's only a minute, it's not actual gameplay, folks, but I think it does tell a really important or paint an important picture as to what this game is going to look and run like when it potentially releases in holiday of 2023.
Yeah, so first off, I feel like, yeah, Unreal Engine 5 is very impressive. It has great tools, all this kind of stuff. But for me, all credit goes to Ninja Theory, right? Because we've seen this, like you said before, Boom. We've seen this from them before. Like if you play Hellblade 1 right now with the update that they have on the Series X, it's still mind-blowing, and it's still the best version of a game that I've seen where it crosses the blend of like real motion action and acting into real gameplay, right? So they've already accomplished that on a past version of Unreal. So I only expected for this to be a huge step up. And it's not only a credit to Ninja Theory, but it's a credit for Microsoft for giving them the time, the new mocap studio as well that they have, growing the studio, investing in them to make them be able to accomplish these things, right? So as impressive as Unreal Engine is, that allows them to the tech to do this, they still are the engineers behind what they are creating, right? Because you've seen lots of Unreal games before, and some of them pan out, some of them don't. Gotham Knights runs 30 frames per second in Unreal 4, on Series X and PS5, right? So engines, yes, they're an important part of it, but the secret sauce comes down to the development talent behind what is made. So first off, it's just absolutely amazing what they're able to do. And it was a Colin Moriarty who said, why buy a studio like Ninja Theory? What does that do?
He
for
certainly
culture?"
did say that. Yes, yes, he
Listen
did.
to the conversations that are being had today, and there's your answer, buddy. Right?
Yeah.
This is a difference maker kind of studio, especially with the muscle and support of Microsoft behind them, because they were capable of what they were capable before as a small team with not a lot of money. And now you put the weight of Microsoft behind them, and you're going to get results like what we saw today. So this is going to do what the thing that people have been asking for, like check one of those boxes. Well, where's that really visually amazing story-based thing that people have been waiting for? Ninja Theory is your answer. So, Colin, just look at that today, and you'll understand why Microsoft bought Ninja Theory. I'm sorry you don't get to play it on your PlayStation. You know, it's okay. I think you're gonna.
I'm sure he has a. Listen. He has a big company, and I'm sure he has a a $5,000 rig that could play a game like that. He doesn't even have to buy an Xbox. He can simply play on PC,
play
like
on
most
PC.
PlayStation players.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like with these games, you're gonna be able to play this game in multiple places. You're gonna be able to play it in the cloud if you want to. You're gonna be able to play it on your phone or PC or whatever. And people still complain. We'll get into this, I'm sure, later with Redfall.
Oh, we actually we're this is going to be one of those ragtag kind of conversations, folks. I don't know where I'm going to pump the brakes or press on the gas, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I want to go to Crispy Bomb on this because Crispy, the Coalition, your favorite studio of studios, right? I know this isn't about Gears of War, folks. Take it easy. I'm coming to the point. We know that currently the Coalition masters of the Unreal Engine. Now, last year, July 27th, specifically, which is my brother's birthday, by the way. Neo Mental, I love you. I know he's going to say something rude, but I love you anyway. In 2022, they showed off Unreal Engine 5 running the Cavern, okay? And we were all blown away. I'm literally looking at it right now, and my mind is blown. But I have to be honest with you. What we saw today from Senua Saga 2 or Senua Saga Hellblade 2 really, I think it should calm all the fears of anyone who is currently an Xbox fan that's wondering if Microsoft has a studio, and I believe they have several studios, that could deliver something that is going to rival God of War. And I think we saw that today. What are your takes on this?
You ever play a game or sit there and watch somebody play a game or just watch something that you're just like, my God, I have never seen this before. And
yes, I have.
And we used to like tout like these old games, but like it can't get any better. And it just keeps happening. And I sat there today on my big screen television and I said, what's real and what's not?
Yes.
And that goes back to what Wandering Dutch is saying. And that's why instead of hating on it for once, the fanboys are saying, well, why don't we have this? Let's bring up a bunch of stuff that Microsoft people. ZeniMax is not the same as what we're talking about with Hellblade 2, but yet they are, because Hellblade 1 released on PlayStation.
Yep,
And
as an exclusive.
God only knows, and it may come out later if they were building something for PlayStation, because they're using Unreal Engine. It's not illogical. Okay? But why are you bugging out? Like, everybody didn't like these games until they actually got polished up and looked good. And this is where I go and say I'm absolutely with Mav, because the technology they're using for the motion capture is not what Sony uses.
Right.
And I believe it's probably somewhere embedded somewhere, and I would love somebody to dig that hard, that it's probably proprietary to Ninja Theory. This is where the Coalition, they have not mastered that completely. If you actually played Gears 5, you'd actually know that they were on the cusp.
Mhm.
And there was rumors that they were working with Ninja Theory on the mocap.
Yes.
But it was too little too late. They needed it out, and the game was not broken type stuff. We're in a different age now. We are looking at games that, I mean, really, they kind of pulled the Playground Games with Forza Horizon. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
they said what's real and what's not. And people sat there and they're like, dude, what are we looking at? And then all of a sudden, bang, car. You know what I'm saying? So I almost feel like, because of, like the demo, like with the car and everything, like the mechanics with, like, the actual shocks moving a certain way, and like a small rock is actually a big deal if you're driving, like these type of things that I also watched today. I was like, wow, that kind of reminds me of Forza right there. And I said, I don't know what's going on. And maybe, Dutch, you're on to something with maybe there's a little mixing going on here. And the one thing I'll say is, Epic hasn't said a bad thing about Microsoft in a long time. And keep in mind, there
Oh,
was some
we are
hate.
going to get into what Tim Sweeney had to say about Microsoft, specifically saying that he's for the deal. We're going to get to that in a hot second, but yeah, I think that when you look at Gabe Newell, chummy with Phil Spencer, and now Mr. Epic himself for the deal. Yeah, I think Epic is for Microsoft, but like I said, we're going to get into that momentarily.
Well, no, and I'm not going down that route. I'm just bringing up that point that, there's something there to be had. And you could say what you want, but I mean, all these devs working with Epic for, these demos that happened before that happened to work for the Coalition. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is one thing that I've never seen. Like, the motion capture was so flawless that I can't tell. And I would say, like, being on screen, is it a movie or is it a game? And I sent this to my girl, and she said, holy shit. That's all she said. Okay, because I said, this is a game. Think about this. And she was like, what? Like, and that's something that, like, you could be, I'm not techie like some of you guys, but at the same time, the eye test, wow, 1 minute, that was enough.
Yeah.
And that was clearly enough the way the internet is acting right now. So I just, and I want to do this real quick. I plead with you, Microsoft, do not mess this up. You have been like a barrel roll effect. You got the Netflix and the Gears and who's doing it. You got all this other stuff.
Oh yeah,
that is just going, and it's been and then the ABK stuff. Shut up. Tout what you've already shown, and say no more until you're ready to do another little, it could be like a little live stream or something like that. Just shut up. Don't mess this up, please. For the
don't
love
gum
of
up
God,
the gears, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, like we love the grease, but sometimes, like, the grease will get gummy if you just let it sit there. So we want a little period of time to digest this. And I think everybody that's maybe not an Xbox gamer, but not hating on Xbox, is going to look at this as they watch this and say, where do we go next now? And the one thing I'll say is you have to deliver on what we saw. You have to. And I truly believe what we've seen and the progression that they will deliver. Ninja Theory will deliver. You know what I'm saying? So I get people want to say it's going to be this year. I don't think so. I think they're just constantly teasing us. And I'm cool with it because I want that. Ninja Theory should have an unlimited budget the way I've seen. So what I've seen, I mean, my eye, I got a bad right eye, but my left eye is pretty good. And what I saw, my jaw dropped. And I didn't know how to react to it, especially on my TV and everything. Like I was like, wow. And that is something, the wow factor, it's there now. So don't mess that up.
Yeah, and listen, I hear what you're saying, and I agree. Yeah, don't gum up the gears. I love it. I love the fact that you sent it to your girl, like, hey, take a look at this. Oh my God, what are we watching? Real quick, Mag, I'm gonna start you off with a tidbit of information that Wandering Dutch has put in there, and I'm glad he has clarified this. The transition from Actress to Unreal Engine 5 is 17 to 18 seconds in. So anything after 17 seconds is Unreal Engine 5. And I say, holy shit, are you kidding me?
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Well, first of all, I did watch it, and I was I knew exactly what they were going to do the minute they showed her, and I'm like, all right, I know what they're going to do here. They're going to do one of those transition things into and then you're not going to be able to tell when. The only thing I could really tell is obviously when she was Senua, you could see the top lip. I know this is kind of sound kind of so stupid, but her top lip, the way it was moving, you could see it was unnatural. It was not human-like. So I'm like, okay, well, she's clearly that. You could see where that change happened. So when she's speaking, and you see the top lip and you see the teeth exposed and then unexposed and exposed, like the way it was moving. I'm like, well, there it is. You could tell. It's remember like even last gen where you're like, oh my God, this looks so real. But then you saw the character's skin and they would never be able to mimic human skin properly and the movement of it, right? But anyways, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it was absolutely stunning. And the thing that's amazing, what I want to see is I want to see it in action. I want to see what we're going to be controlling. Cinematics are fantastic. Showing me the tech is even more fantastic because you know what it does? It brings us hope as to what's going to be coming up later on down the road. That's something that Dutch was saying it's not even just stuff for now, it's for later as well. As you know what I mean? It just opens the door for what they'll be able to produce later on for our entertainment. Speaking of entertainment, I want to see Senua move with somebody's thumb on the stick. That's what I want to see. I want to see this translated to what we're actually going to be doing. That's something Rand has always said too. He's like, you know what? I can watch cinematic trailers. They're great. They get me excited. But he goes, they don't do anything for me because it's not what I'm going to be doing. So I look forward. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying I look forward to seeing what they're going to do, what they're going to show us when they're finally going to reveal proper gameplay and say, okay, this is what you're actually going to be doing. And that's when I'm going to get excited. I'm going to go, hot damn, this is going to be amazing. You know what I mean? Because then I could picture myself doing exactly what they're doing, going through the foliage, going up mountains, climbing this, traversing that, you know what I mean? Jumping from here to A to B, whatever I'm going to be doing, right? And that's where the player puts it in their mind as to, holy crap, this is what I'm going to be doing. So I'm really, really excited for that. The interesting thing is, I wanted to say this, we've all said it, okay? Every single person on this panel, whether you're on this panel, Mav, or on your own show, we've all said it at one point, is the best thing Microsoft could have done was give money to Ninja Theory.
Yep,
we have said this from every last person has said that on this panel has said it. Giving Ninja Theory money is exactly what they needed and it's the most incredible thing. Now, the thing is, you look at what's happening right now. We'll get into the ABK stuff later on in the show, right? But you look at what people have been saying. Microsoft is, absorbing all these studios. They're going to ruin gaming. They're doing this. They're blah, 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 all this negative stuff, right? What they don't see and what we see and what the rest of the world is actually seeing, they're making people's dreams come true. And I'm not talking about the players. I'm not talking about the gamers. I'm talking about, like, for example, Ninja Theory. Think about 5 years ago, 6 years ago when they were doing mocap, and then that week they were doing mocap, they're like, well, we got to do mocap this week because we won't be able to afford to pay the staff their salaries.
That's crazy.
Week.
Yeah.
Right. And they still made it work, and they still made it happen. They still somehow kept their lights on, even though they were about to turn those lights off, which would have been one of the biggest travesties in gaming, unbeknownst to us at the time, knowing that their potential has now been shown by who? The big bad company that absorbs and is going to ruin gaming. They're the ones who are making gaming better. And you know what I mean? And so like what have they look what they've done to them. They've taken these talents and be able to utilize them and to their full potential by giving them the assets and giving them the resources that they require in order to do this. Now we're going to see what they can. I mean, we've already said this for 2 years, but I'm just saying it again. This is what we're going to see moving forward. And this is what's exciting to me is that instead, and that is why, and this is why it ties into the ABK deal thing as well. And that is why other people in the industry are supporting the deal, because they can see that Microsoft is not there to absorb and just, you know what I mean, be this mindless. I mean, they're still a corporation. Let's not lie to ourselves, but they're not a mindless this division specifically is not a mindless corporation there to just absorb, lay off people, make money, sell you know what I mean? Sell the departments, make more money. They are there to grow this situation, because they have someone in there who actually cares. You've got Phil in there who cares. Sure, his bottom line is still going to be making money, obviously. Otherwise, he doesn't have a job either, right? So, and he's got to pay, he's got to take care of his family and everything else. But the thing is, they're doing this organically, and there's a lot of it, and it's through the respect for the business. And that is why they have earned the respect of the other people in this industry, and that's why they're supporting, because they know that they're going to put the money and resources, not only what they've done with Ninja Theory right now, but there's what they're going to be doing to ABK in the future, and then you're really going to see what Call of Duty can do. Then you're really going to see what the next Tony Hawk is going to do, or Diablo 4 DLC, Diablo 5, whatever the hell they got coming up. Right? That's where you're going to see. We're seeing it right now with Ninja Theory. Sure, it's going to take years, but we're seeing it. We're already seeing the fruits of the labor now. This is why it's so important that when that you do not count out what Microsoft is trying to do in order to make the gaming scene better. And what we saw today is exactly that. Last thing I'm going to touch on before I pass off to Hargeet here is that Fortnite. Okay, that Fortnite demo that I watched was incredible. Can I ask, please, for the love of Christ, can Fortnite make a bloody game? Make a game instead of just this the stupid battle royale. I mean, it's kind of fun. I'm not going to lie to you. I play it with my son every once in a while, but still, the point is, can we make a proper game for Christ's sake? Can we make a campaign with what I saw today? Did you see those graphics on that campaign of what could be done with
they were ridiculous. Dude,
okay, and then did you see the shot where they did you see that little beat that they had going on where the girl was fighting the giant mech? What the hell are they waiting for? Make a campaign. Make an 8-hour campaign, 10-hour campaign like Call of Duty. Yeah, put the Battle Royale in there, and then put a multiplayer in there. And I mean a proper multiplayer. Team deathmatch, all that kind of stuff, whatever. And what the hell?
Capture the points, capture the flag,
That's
you
right.
name it.
Can you give us a Call of Duty in the Fortnite world is what I'm getting at. Give us a campaign, keep the Battle Royale, just like Call of Duty does, and then give us a multiplayer aspect, all in this Unreal Engine 5. It would sell like hotcakes. You want to talk about
how about this?
Games?
How about a multiplayer game that's a team versus team using all of the licensed IP, meaning that you could be Batman and I could be Goku and someone else could be Master Chief on the same team fighting Kratos and Nathan Drake and Indiana Jones and
right, and all the characters that you would be able to purchase.
Well, listen, we just sold them. Oh, it's $1 million idea for Epic Games.
Come on, man! Like Epic, what do you got?
Fortnite's creator tools have allowed them to do now. So they've already completely recreated Rust, the Call of Duty map in Fortnite.
Yes.
You can put Genius in there. You can do all different kinds of games now. Like,
I want to see Epic.
You know what? I will say that this community is so effing talented. Like you see some of the maps and stuff that are made, and you're like, how come you're not working for Epic? How come you're not working for Bethesda or whoever? It's crazy.
It is pretty remarkable. But I mean, like, that being the case, hey, keep that going. Keep that like the like Forge and Halo. Keep that the same as what the hell is that one they got in Battlefield? I always forget the name of it. And because Battlefield kind of dropped
Legends?
off there. No, it was Portal. Is that what it was? Portal, the one from the new one, the 24, whatever the hell it was, the one that nobody played.
Battlefield 2023.
Battlefield Portal.
Yeah, Battlefield. Yeah, 2041.
Yeah. So
I think the difference between Forge, and this this Unreal creator thing in Fortnite though is that those creating content for Unreal in the Fortnite creator get up to 40% of the profits.
Oh my god! So it's like a Roblox idea.
Yeah.
So so basically, okay, that makes a lot, and that makes a lot of sense financially for Unreal Epic. You know what I mean? Because
at the end as well, that's net profits.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So what they're doing is they're providing you with the tools, and then of course they take a cut. I mean, if it works out and whatever else, right? And then of course the content creators have a reason, not only just for the love of the game, they also have a reason to do it because look at how successful Roblox is. People can laugh at Roblox all you want, but that is making billions of dollars, generating billions of dollars, and it's providing work for a lot of developers, indie developers, and people coming up in the industry, or people who just want to make money. What a fantastic idea.
One thing I'll say about that, though, is there needs to be some kind of better policing over what's created and monetized within those created games. My daughter was really into Roblox, and even from early on, there's some of the most manipulative, crazy things for people to click on as kids to try and get them to spend money. So
they prey on kids' weaknesses. You're right,
they absolutely prey on like kids, and they have all these tycoon games. Oh, click here, it's $1 for this pass for all this stuff, and they get you with subscriptions, they get you with all these different things. So as good as it is, and it's amazing, there needs to be they need to be a little bit more careful with how they allow creators to do things within it, because there's some big time scammy stuff.
So then keep it simple and respectful. And keep a thriving community. But I'm still saying, I mean, regardless of all of this, I still want to see Epic make an actual Call of Duty, make an actual Fortnite game, a real game with a campaign, with achievements, with trophies. Give us keep the multiplayer, keep the battle royale the way it is, because that's what's making them billions. Keep that. Give us the multiplayer aspect. Give us everything. Give us all of that stuff. Like, come on, man, give it. You got the tools to do it. You own the damn tools. What do you mean you got the tools? You own the tools. Let's get it going. Charge $70. I don't care. Charge $70. We'll buy it. We'll be there for it if the game is good. From what I saw today between Senua, I'll pass it off now. But with what I saw from Senua's Saga and what I saw from Fortnite, I'm more excited than ever. So, anyways, I'm just gonna pass it off to Hargeet. I'm just saying this is a great peek into the future of the way things are going.
Yeah, listen, again, I think more specifically, folks, what I'm looking at from an Xbox fan's point of view, who have been asking Microsoft to deliver content on the level of, Uncharted and God of War and Horizon, I think we saw a glimpse of it. Again, and just before I give it over to Hargeet, Wandering Dutch, correct me if I'm wrong, Avowed is Unreal Engine 5. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. See that, and there you go. I mean, we haven't seen that, and I can't wait to see it. But Hargeet, listen, I know you didn't get
the zombie one again. I keep forgetting the name of it.
State of Decay 3.
State of Decay 3. Yeah.
5.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. All right. Good.
In collaboration with the Coalition.
The Coalition is helping with them. Yeah. We know.
May I ask a quick question then? Is this why? I mean, besides the pandemic being a situation, which it was. This is something we were talking about behind the scenes before we started the show. Is this possible that a lot of these games were, held off, or we're like, where the hell is this game? How come we haven't seen this game? Were they waiting for this to happen? Were they waiting for the Unreal Engine 5 to truly launch, or like what's the story?
We saw that and when we had the conversation when the Series X, we had David Spearn, the lead director of hardware at Xbox, on our podcast, and he said himself, we were literally waiting till the last minute until everything was absolutely ready before launching the Xbox itself, because we didn't want to launch it and miss out things that would very much benefit the console going forward. And I think they've got a mindset for everything when it comes to the tool sets for their games. So they want to make sure that whatever technology is going to be available within the coming weeks or months, if that's available close enough to be able to fit it in and use it, then they will wait for that to go in there to make sure that they get the most out of it. If the technology is still another 2-3 years away, then of course they'll say, okay, we'll wait, and that's going to be the next thing down the line.
The next game or whatever. Yeah.
If it's within months of a game releasing, they'll absolutely try and make the most of what's available over that next couple of months.
Perfect. Hargeet, now I'm not sure if you got a chance while everyone was talking to take a look at it, and it's fine if you didn't, okay? But I'm interested to get your opinion on specifically a game like this that we have been asking for. We've been asking for Microsoft to deliver through their first party. And again, we know that others are coming. Fable, Avowed, Starfield, Redfall specifically, Motorsport. There is a ton of incredibly graphical showpiece games coming for Xbox, but Hellblade from Ninja Theory, I mean, that is the studio that if they would not have been bought by Microsoft, but they may not be around today. And they have said that on numerous interviews that they were literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. My question to you is, how excited are you based on what you've heard from everyone so far?
No, I mean, I watched the whole showcase. So
you did. Okay, excellent.
So as far as like the showcase, there was a lot of cool things in there. We've talked a lot about just Hellblade and the Fortnite stuff. There was also a lot about how you can make environments, which will make it very easy for developers. Hey, I just create a few little buildings, a few little, trees and some rock faces, and suddenly it just generates the rest for you. That is really, really cool. And that's all coming out as a beta. I guess it's in 5.2, right? And that's available today in preview mode. That's some pretty cool stuff. As far as the Hellblade stuff, we already know that they were pretty good at what they do, right? They kind of create systems and then let the systems do the work instead of doing all the grunt that usually most companies do, and that's why they need hundreds of developers to make the same kind of game, right? Which is pretty good. So we'll see how the ultimate game is. I'm kind of with Rand on we need to see the actual gameplay. So it's cool that we have all this, but what does it really look like? A lot of the stuff they were showing was also on a PC rig with a 4090. That's great, but that's not the Xbox or the PlayStation. So we'll see what it really scales down to, just to keep our expectations in check, right? That may not be what we end up looking at when the game comes out. That was on a very high end computer. So that's cool, but we'll see what happens, right? Now UE looks ridiculous, right? When you look at it in full PC mode, the environments, it just looks real. It looks literally real, right? So if they can get the gameplay like that and put that on a console, that is pretty cool. We'll see how the game actually comes out. So I don't want to get my expectations up to here and then be disappointed that it's not going to meet that, because there's just realities of how much silicon there really is on the consoles, right? So a 4090 is a very, very high-end graphics card, and that's what that's pulling off. So we have to be kind of careful to think too far about what this is going to look like. But it should look pretty close, right? So I'm hoping it'll be good. To Mag, your point, do you mean there's somebody that could compete with Call of Duty? Wait, that's a possibility? Oh, I thought Call of Duty is a one-off game that nobody could compete with.
It's the greatest game in life. Yes.
That's why they're giving Sony 10 years to figure it out. They're like, you got 10 years to make a new COD.
To your point, they could totally do that in Fortnite. It's already a massive game that has more players than COD does, right? So what stops them from doing it? Nothing, just time. Right? They could do it. They could absolutely do everything you're saying, and suddenly they have a competitor. Apex.
What makes more money, Fortnite or Call of Duty?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I would assume Fortnite. I mean,
Fortnite is free to play, so that gives it a little bit of a.
But let's include Warzone in there,
right? So it may be that overall money wise, it may be Call of Duty just because of the number of sales of $70 games, right? But as far as Fortnite making money, they make a lot of money. Right, because it's all microtransactions though, right? So, I don't actually. I have to do the actual
And my point to that is just when Sony says that, I don't think they mean it has to be a first person shooter like Call of Duty. They're just talking about the amount of money that it brings in, right?
Yep, that's literally what they're worried about. Well, what Jim Ryan is worried about.
Right, and Fortnite brings in a crap ton of money. So does a lot of other games. Their whole argument
Microsoft
about
pointed
that
out too is right. You're discounting EA. You don't make money off FIFA, Madden. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Those games make a lot of money too, right? But yeah. So the demo stuff that they did was pretty cool. Granted, this is still in like it's in beta mode, and hopefully over the year it'll start panning out. So yeah, it's promising, but again, it's future. So we'll see when things actually start using it. Redfall, I think, is UE4, not 5. So it'd be good to actually get some of these UE5 games outside of Fortnite, which will start taking advantage of some of these things. But it's Fortnite, so it doesn't actually showcase it to the right level. Some of these things with the UEFN is that it's the ability to do Fortnite and create worlds within it. That looked pretty cool, right? They were bringing in actual buildings, actual structures, and it looked, not cartoony, but real. So that could be kind of interesting, right? But one of the other things that's kind of cool with that is this might be why Microsoft is thinking about moving to UE for Halo, because that feature is pretty much Forge, right? So there wouldn't be as much of an uplift if they could do the same bloody thing. If they can pull that feature set, which I don't know if they can or can't, right? But it is an interesting thing, right? It might make it a little easier to port over if they already have this capability that you can have within game. You can have the ability to create worlds, right? That is something they'll need to do with Forge if they're going to move it over. But yeah, that's it. It was an interesting, hour long, hour and a half presentation. I liked a lot of the things they were showing, but again, I just take caution with this is all on high-end PC, and when I see it on console, I'll know what it really looks like on console. Until then, I'll just keep my expectations in check.
I mean, listen, that makes sense. And Hargeet, I want to stay with you. I want to stay with you because we're transitioning over to my very racy title, how I believe, based on what we learned in the last 48 hours, Jim Ryan and Sony are effed. Now, obviously, we've heard a lot leading up to this. There's been a lot of back and forth. We know the EU Commission did something I did not expect. I think it's unparalleled compared to what we thought that they were going to do. But the mention of PlayStation in regards to setting up a contract so their concerns has only been moved. The concessions, or the remedies as it's called, has been completely moved away from focusing on PlayStation to cloud. Now, Idle Sloth, good friend of the program, yes, a human being, is constantly putting out incredible pieces. You've put up this one. Now, Brad Smith, president of Microsoft, talked about the Boosteroid deal makes it even more clear to the regulators of that our acquisition of Activision Blizzard King will make Call of Duty available on far more devices than ever before. And he also goes on to say in this interview with the New York Times, Hargeet, that more deals are currently underway. Now, why we're talking about it, why we're bringing this back up again, is because of some information that was put out by Florian Muller. He is at FOSS Patents on Twitter. He has exploded on the scene, very similar to what we saw Hogue Law. What's that? Yeah, he was interviewed by Destin Legary, which was a great interview, by the way. And he put out a bevy of tweets talking about this. And this is the one I want to go to you specifically on. He says the CMA has released new Microsoft filings on remedies. Quote, the console remedy would equalize the Call of Duty content across PlayStation and Xbox, i.e., PlayStation gamers will no longer receive content advantages that Xbox and PC gamers do not receive. And he goes on to say, #Sony is anti-parity now. Now, this is one of those situations where, we've heard Sony cry about parity and holding back content. But Hargeet, let's be fair here. Since 2014, all Sony has done in their marketing deals, specifically for Call of Duty, has been holding back content. In fact, some content is held so long, almost a year from date to date, that when it's finally released for Xbox, it becomes Mr. Irrelevant because the next Call of Duty is out. Let's focus in on this for a second. this remedy that Microsoft has confirmed that they're not going to make Xbox players, the penthouse gamers. Everyone is going to get the content. I think that's a stake in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the same for PC players. We always forget that there's a large contingent of PC players who also get screwed over by this. And once it comes to Nintendo, they would also get screwed over by this. So, and they made that case. Microsoft said, "Hey, you know what? You wanted parity. Well, we don't have that today, and the people that don't have it are the minority stakeholders, not the majority, lead console platform, and that is not good for competition." Right. And we're offering equal, content everywhere. Right. So everybody gets the same thing. And yeah, that's a fair statement to make. It's something that the regulators just have to deal with. Right. Are you going to continue this pattern? You're locking in a 10-year agreement that they're going to have the same stuff everywhere. Everybody gets the same thing. That's pretty good. Right. There's no, hey, we're going to get this mode, which is, by the way, a thing. There's like you can do 2 extra loadouts on PlayStation. You can't do it on Xbox or PC. Why? You're paying the same $70. What the heck, right? There's been other campaign things and whatever, things that you just couldn't do that were only available on PlayStation. That's just a stupid thing to do, but it is what it is, right? And it's very common. There's Hogwarts doing the same exact thing, right? A mission that you just can't do unless you're on PlayStation. Everybody buying it on Switch or Xbox or PC.
What about all those Destiny
lot,
strikes?
Right? Yeah,
what about all those Destiny? What about the hand cannon that was exclusive for 18 months?
And I wonder if Sony was so kind to go over to Phil and say, "Oh, hey, we're buying Bungie. Here's a 10-year agreement that we're not going to hold content from you." I doubt they even bothered to think about doing that, right? And I don't think any regulator actually came up and said, "Oh yeah, maybe you should make that agreement to make sure that everybody gets the content." They just let it buy it, right? It like whatever. That's what happened, right? There was a lot of interesting stuff that came out of the disclosures, but yeah, that specific item, it's a pretty good point that Microsoft makes. Hey, we're currently held back. We don't have parity. Why the heck are you trying to protect the company that keeps that away from everybody? That's pretty bad. There's a majority of gamers not playing on PlayStation that aren't getting all the content right now, right? That's not good, right? So I mean, what they had in those, like the other industry participants that sent in information.
6 out of the 9 are for the deal. In fact, one of them even said, Hargeet.
Yep.
Yes, they said specifically this would bring better competition against Sony if the deal went through.
Yep. Yeah, there's plenty of good information in there. One of them was talking about how they put their games on both, and they find that they are having better engagement and as far as revenue from Xbox, which is a much smaller platform as far as number of users and consoles, versus PlayStation, where it stagnates because of their marketing process, right? So they really only do big publisher stuff, which is fine, but that doesn't help the smaller guys. And it's in fact Xbox that helps them to get their game seen by more people, right? And actually get more revenue out of it. So they're starting to find that Xbox, with a smaller market share, is giving them more money than PlayStation is. And that's pretty crazy, right? And they're saying, hey, expanding that, giving them more consoles, if they start growing, that's just better for the little guys, because we're going to get more engagement, right? And that's not what Sony's doing today. And this is a good foil to Sony to then become competitive and actually do that for the little guy, right? Because they don't care today. Right. And that's
well, they only cared about indies. Right? If you remember, Hargeet, indies were not they have not been a thing for PlayStation except for when they didn't have their own games. Exactly. If you remember when the PlayStation 4 came out, they were open arms indies left, right, and center.
Yep, because they didn't have much. They didn't have many games, right? So the first couple of years they were pretty dry, and then they had to go to indies. That's fine, right? But then they dropped it. They started having their big games come out, and then the indies kind of went to the side, right? And you have to pay whatever $30,000 or whatever it is to get any ability to promote your game. That is not what Microsoft does, right? So they have many angles to try to promote games, and it apparently is working, right? So that was one of them. There's plenty of disclosures in the Microsoft side and the Activision side. Activision not caring about doing cloud. They in fact are like on what I think is going to happen, where your devices are just going to end up with so much power at some point. Your device, your TV, your cell phone will just be able to natively play the games. That's what they're thinking the market's going to trend towards. So they don't think the cloud thing is even a thing, right? So that's, you know, up to CMA and to to EC. They don't think that the cloud is actually a viable thing for their games anyway, and they think the cloud market has not proven itself and may just never prove itself. It may just.
Well, I mean, if you look at the
point,
if you look at the breakdown, I think 2% of the market in regards to revenue was cloud. 2%.
Yeah, and then that may be valuable in some markets potentially, but as it is, it's just too small. And for them, they're looking at when your device can, and they're saying, hey, look, we have games on mobile today, and they perform well, right? And you look at the latest phones, they have a lot of processing power. You look at the same thing as the Mac has an M1 and M2. Those processors are ARM processors that could end up in an iPad at some point, right? And that's a lot of power. It's a lot of compute power, right? At some point, there's just going to be enough in your devices. You don't need to do cloud. That's what they're saying. And Microsoft saying, look, they're outright telling us we're not going to do cloud unless we're you're part of your thing, in which case we do whatever you tell us to do, right? So yes, they'll come there, but market share wise, all Game Pass Ultimate users are not using cloud. It's the majority of it is downloads, right? That's just the way it is. So yeah, they're working through it with the EC and the CMA, and we're starting to see the tides are turning. And the Sony baloney, that's what I'm going to term it. The Sony baloney is starting to just fade away. The Sony baloney is starting to fade away. Now, one of the things that's coming out, I think it was Windows Central put this out, is that PlayStation may be looking to push getting a VR maybe rendition of Call of Duty or something, because they had a footnote that talked about PSVR 2, but the rest of it was redacted, right? So there's a potential that might be one of the concessions they're looking for. Fair enough, whatever. Maybe they have to do a couple of VR versions of COD or I don't know, Diablo or something like that. But it looks like they're finally talking, right? There's something coming up, right? So we'll see. I think this is coming to a close. It looks like everybody's kind of getting to the point where, the Sony stuff was a little.
It's just dumb. I'm sorry. It just, I mean, not to sound simplistic as a stump, folks, but Sony's arguments are just straight up dumb.
Yeah. So and they had a nice graph on the Microsoft one that showed how many publishers are putting games on PlayStation versus Nintendo versus Xbox, and it's like 3-1 how much PlayStation gets. It's ludicrous how many games they get. Yeah. Right. And that is a massive network effect. Like telling us one game is going to end Sony. That just makes no sense. There's
it's a farce
for that. Yeah. And so they're like, you're out of your league. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Right. And they laid it all out, and it's pretty compelling. You can't tell me Call of Duty is the one thing that's going to kill them when there's other games making that much money too. And they all exist on their platform. And then they have their own, they're the fourth biggest publisher above Activision. It's like, well, okay, well, if you're going to make that much, then how can you tell us that you can't sustain yourself? Right? Nintendo did without anybody else. They don't care. They're making their own games.
They don't have Call of Duty and they're still living.
Yeah, well, they don't have Call of Duty.
The funniest thing is, though, about all of this publisher malark is there is literally, in terms of publishers worldwide, game developers, game publishers make up 15% of every publisher for every media worldwide, and that's around 200,000 game publishers.
Yeah.
So there are 200,000 game publishers worldwide. Over that, actually, it's closer to 210,000 now, and that's just the game industry. Like, it is absolutely ginormous. So yes, Activision's one of them, one of the larger ones, but it makes
three of them, right? And that's what makes it so weird, right?
Yeah, so consolidation, Dutch. Consolidation. They're all going to get bought up by Microsoft. All 200,000 of them.
Oh my God, I can't do it.
It's bonkers.
Yeah,
it's just insane. Yeah, it's like that level of how big the actual gaming market is worldwide is obscene. And when people are saying, "Oh, well, they're going to buy up they're going to buy up 200,000 publishers," it's obviously not going to happen.
Right? Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that is, I guess people don't realize how big gaming is, right? That most people are looking at this as like, hey, it's just some sort of side thing, right? And why is this so much money? It's like, no, you don't understand. The gaming market is massive. It's a huge trillions of dollar market.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And like buying one publisher, it is like a big number, but it's actually 3 publishers, but it isn't that big in comparison to the entire industry, right? They're not buying out 40% of the industry or something. It's still just a small chunk, right? At the end of this, they still end up at what, like 10, 12, 15% max, right? Like, okay, that's big. It's big, but it's not the market, right? They're not hitting that 40% threshold. They're not hitting 70% thresholds. They're very small. They're going to remain behind Sony, who's complaining to all high heaven, right? So it's like, come on. Like, so this whole thing, apparently the regulators have got the hint. It's starting to move in that direction.
It does appear.
Yeah. The FTC is also looking at trying to get more data, more records, right? So it looks like they're also going to try to negotiate out of this. And then I don't know if people heard about the whole the fan lawsuit.
It got thrown out of court. Yeah, it got thrown out.
Got thrown out of court, and it was based on the FTC, right? So all their issues were based on what the FTC had put out, and the judge is like, yeah, you have no case, bye-bye. So you can just see where that's going to go, right? So I'm sure the FTC saw that as like, writing on the wall, we need to kind of come up with our own requirements here. They're better off actually coming up with some concessions and get a win, as it were, right? Instead of having a judge toss it out, right? So hopefully they do negotiate and get us some bennies. That would be awesome if they can get us something like Game Pass can't go up in price for a couple of years or something. That'd be awesome, right?
Yeah, that would be good.
We'll
that would be
awesome, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's plenty of little things. I like the majority of the people except Sony from the industry are like, we don't see a problem with this. Some were very, very pro. Some were like, we don't see this causing us any issues, and we think it should just go through. So it's pretty good overall, except for Sony, of course, who still thinks it's the end of the world.
Yeah, which is again, it's ridiculous.
Just to kind of add to your point earlier about the mobile segment as well, I've got some statistics around
we're gonna get into
the
that,
US here.
Yeah, we're talking about what Microsoft's going to get into mobile.
Yeah.
We can definitely go down that route because it's interesting. I'll come back with that. Good talk about it.
Yeah, so the statistics. Yeah, this is just for the US. So it's the statistics is around 70% of Americans play video games. That's 70%. So it's around 67% of people in the US play games on at least one type of device. It's around amounts to around 211 million people. Half of those play games on multiple platforms. The statistics also further show that 90% of those people play games on smartphones, tablets, or both. So when you're talking about why Microsoft are looking primarily into the mobile market, it's because
there's
know...
a lot more to that, right? It's so there's the what is it? The digital what was the thing that's in the EU Digital Markets Act?
Yes.
Right. And what that does is it tries to level the playing field from these big tech companies. It's more than just the mobile stores, but that is one of them. That the platforms for mobile, Google's Android and iOS from Apple cannot be locked to just their stores. They must allow third-party stores. And so Microsoft is trying to put that together to be one of those stores, and they need content to do it, right? And that's one of their things. So they want to be one of those stores. Now, look, they're a company that wants to have this for a different reason. They want to get into that mobile market. Everybody knows that they want to do that, right? They failed miserably with Windows Mobile because they didn't have apps, right? If they can have an app store that suddenly gets a whole bunch of apps, well, they can bring their own, mobile phone to the market that, runs those apps, right? So I get that that's a strategy they're going to use, but they want these mobile apps, the games, to get that foothold, to have people say, oh, I want the Microsoft app because it has my, Call of Duty. It has my Candy Crush, right? Whatever else they're going to have, right? They want those in there so that they can say, okay, we're going to have this store, and then we're going to offer deals to other apps and content providers to say, you can come to our store and, Netflix, we don't have to charge you every time you have a new movie or something, or, hey, you're XYZ cloud provider and, Apple says you have to pay them or put your game, every single game in the store instead of just subscribing to the service. No, we'll let you do it. We don't care. Go ahead. Put your app on ours. Right. So they're going to start gaining, market share by trying to do that. And then eventually, of course, I'm sure they're going to put out a mobile, device of some sort. But yeah, it's an interesting move for them. It's a long run thing, but that is part and parcel of why they want this, right? They want the big mobile part of it. Call of Duty being a big game, Diablo Immortal, Candy Crush, right? And they're looking at expanding that mobile, and there's going to be more acquisitions that are going to push that, right? They're going to keep going that mobile direction to make this happen, right? So. But yeah, it is a big deal, and that's why they keep saying this is about mobile. It's not about Call of Duty exclusivity against a console. We don't care, right? We're trying to get into that mobile, right? That's their big strategy, and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. They've been wanting to get in that mobile ever since they screwed
I
up
think
the
what
whole
they
mobile
need to
thing
get away from
with the iPhone.
and for anybody who's played the recently released Doom game that was on mobile, they kind of need to get away from that. If they want to go down the mobile gaming route that kind of appeals to everybody, they need to get away from some of these kind of easy one-handed things that you can play with your eyes shut kind of games. I need to have something a little bit more of an open bracket, because the Gears game that came out was pretty much the same. The Doom game has been exactly the same. Like, it's all very easy, kind of, okay, you go through this level, you die, you level up, you go through this level, you level up. It's all pretty much the same thing over and over again, like for every version of mobile game that they bring out. So I think they need to be, especially going forward, if the game plan is to be on mobile, they need to be a little bit more expansive with the type of games they put on mobile.
Well, I think that's where the game. I think, I mean, you make a lot of sense
for
with that.
you, bro. I'm just telling you.
I think. Look, I want to say this, Mav. I want to bring you in on the conversation, but first, before I bring up the Financial Times article that I have pulled in front of me, Tim Sweeney, head dude over at, of course, the company that brings us Fortnite and hopefully a new Fortnite game for Mag. Tim Sweeney, head of Epic Games. He actually put out a tweet that set the interwebs on fire. Now, obviously, he is for this deal. He knows Microsoft wants to get into mobile in a big way. He knows, and obviously, Microsoft came to their defense during the Apple trials, right? They were out there, and they put some stuff out there against Google. Google and Apple, especially in the EU and the UK, have a duopoly. It's their game, and people are just playing it. And Microsoft is trying to get into it. Well, he said this, Mav. Microsoft launching mobile app stores to compete with iOS app store and Google Play Store is huge news, and highlights that today's PC stores from Microsoft, Valve, and Epic are tomorrow's leading contenders to expand mobile. And obviously he's coming to the defense of Microsoft. And he goes on to say Microsoft's core market is way over 1 billion active users, and they want many billions more. I love this ambition. Now, the Financial Times article that I have, they interviewed Phil Spencer, and he had to say this, Mav. We want to be in a position to offer Xbox and content from both of us and our third-party partners across any screen where somebody would want to play. And this comes away, of course, of Phil Spencer, chief executive of Microsoft Gaming, in an interview ahead of this week's GDC. He goes on to say simply, Mav, today we can't do that on mobile devices, but we want to build towards a world that I think will be coming where those devices are opened up. This is a big deal. And like I said, when you start seeing these things, when you have Gabe Newell of Steam telling regulators, hey, man, we don't even need a contract because Microsoft always does what they're going to do. And then you start seeing someone like Sweeney come out and be like, no, I not only do we love the ambition, but we're for this deal because they're going to open up and expand mobile where it's a duopoly. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's the future. And Microsoft is a very future-faced company, and they always have been. And I think that's just where this is all going. And to say that you want to be on as many screens as possible sounds, for me, as a business, like common sense. Right. Whereas in the past, that was the opposite. You wanted to have this exclusive ecosystem to be able to sell the box and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's fine. But they've seen the trend in the industry over several years now. They've even put the charts out that market for the traditional console and even PC gamers has been pretty much steadily consistent over the last like decade or so with as little growth, whereas the mobile market has just exploded, right? And to limit yourself and put yourself in a box is not the way to go if you want to be prepared for what the future for technology is doing, right? Like think 10 years back, right? And I'm using 10 years as an example because that's what all of these licenses and everything that Microsoft is signing with all these companies is for 10 years, right? Think 10 years ago, what was the cloud? We were just using it it just came out and we were using it to save game files and transfer it. It was only like a file management system. Now they're developing the games within it. You're using it to play games and all these different devices. Think about 10 years in the future. What is it going to be like 10 years from now? And nobody can say because nobody really knows. But if anybody understands the possibilities of it, it's Microsoft. You going back to Epic and Tim Sweeney, you got to think about where their interests may come into this, right? Who sued Apple?
Yeah.
Who got their video game removed off of the Apple storefront when they tried to open their own store and bypass Apple, right?
Yeah.
It was Epic. Who came to their defense? Microsoft.
Yep.
Now look at what Epic's motives would here be. Well, yeah, obviously they're going to side with Microsoft. They want to have their storefronts in as many app stores as possible as well. And this is what's going to continue to happen. This is why one of the reasons I've always felt like this was going to go through, because the real challenge here, the real thing that this is being fought against is against Google and Apple, right? They have a duopoly over the app store space. They both make so much money off of gaming. I think like Tencent's number one, like Apple's number two in like gaming revenue, and they don't even make a game. Apple doesn't even make a game, but they like just completely destroy Microsoft and other companies when it comes to gaming revenue.
Dude, they have over 100 million subscribers for Apple Arcade.
Yep.
And you want to say, okay, well, subscription gaming. Well, Microsoft has such a foothold. You think about the future. What is Apple potentially capable of within that space, right?
There you go.
Microsoft needs to, for their own good as well, needs to try and open this up for their own survival within the app space on cloud devices, because that's where the future is headed. They don't want a future where Apple and Google and potentially Amazon are the only ones that can control the cloud space within the gaming ecosystem on mobile devices. This is why they've gone with this whole ecosystem in the first part. And I mean, it all makes sense when you look at it. Now, some people that are traditional console gamers and PC gamers and stuff, like, we don't want that. We just want, hardware. Well, I think they're still going to be committed to hardware for a long time until it's obsolete, which I don't think that's going to be for a very long time. But this is about getting ahead of where it's going, right? And Sony has been, with their challenges, clinging to the past and crutching on to the past of what has been successful. The market's changing. They know it, right? And they're going to fight against that. They're not just fighting against Microsoft here. They're fighting against the future industry shift, because they are going to be behind in that.
Oh, dude, there's no doubt that they're the old man in the room. Like they want to do traditional console sales. You buy the game, you play it. We have an exclusive contract. You get some extra, a hat or a map. That they're being traditional Sony. They do not want to move into the future. And it's funny that they're thinking this way, because you remember when they bought Gaikai for $300 million? That was a streaming service. They were way ahead of the curve. And like Sony has done with many of their things, the PSP, PlayStation VR 1.0, they abandoned it. And look at the future is here. Well, there you go.
And Microsoft has an example of what they know works, and it's called Minecraft, right?
Yep.
You want to talk about numbers and making money? Look at Minecraft. I looked it up because I was curious how many like monthly active users or whatever there was for Minecraft because they're on everything,
100 million or something, right?
Yeah, it's like 120 million or something like that.
Jeez.
And just Minecraft alone, they have more monthly active users than all of Activision. Just for Minecraft. I was astounded when I saw that.
That's crazy. 120
And
million
you think
active
about
monthly users.
taking all these games and different things and opening it up to that same kind of ecosystem which in Minecraft shares. Think about how much that means for accessibility into gaming, right? Accessibility for people being able to play all these different games, how much money that's going to bring Microsoft and be able to compete against the Sonys and against the Apples and the Googles and all this kind of stuff. This is about the future of gaming and them trying to posture themselves in a way and put themselves in a position to be successful, right? It happened to come at an opportunity where ABK became obtainable.
Yep.
This is where Microsoft was headed anyway, but they were going to be on a much slower track, right?
Yes.
ABK became available and they struck when it was hot. And I think Sony was surprised with that because they knew what the future held, but they didn't expect it to come this fast.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
They didn't expect to have to this potential be done against them and their potential number one market share be in danger or anything like that. So I don't blame Sony for trying to fight, but it's funny when you see all these arguments that they've been making about Call of Duty and console space and stuff. And it's like Jim Ryan's efforts, bless him, right? He tried. He tried to put up the fight, but he's looked more like a fool with the kind of arguments that he's put up, right? He's had to do it. But when you see these regulators now just not even including Sony in the conversation, that's got to be somewhat embarrassing, or maybe not embarrassing, but belittling what he's tried to do, and it puts really Sony in their place where they stand in the overall grand scheme of gaming.
Yeah.
Because if it was that important, that would still be considered with the EC, but it's really not, it's really not.
It's going to be interesting. Like I said, I don't necessarily think that the EC's ideology is going to be very different. Yes, I know Brexit happened. I know that they're two different entities, but it's hard to imagine that the EU Commission would be that different than the CMA. And I do think the CMA is starting to see. I mean, listen, they could say whatever they want. The remedies are there. They're in place. For a reason. They have as a matter of fact, before I go any further, Crispy, I want to bring you in because once again, Florian Muller of FOSS Patents on Twitter, he put out another tweet regarding parity. Like that's like Sony's big driving point for, well, we need parity, otherwise this deal's got to get blocked. Well, in another new Microsoft filing with the CMA, he goes on to say, again, defines parity, and this is Microsoft. Microsoft, again, to the CMA, defines parity comprehensively. Microsoft's proposal is that the remedy will provide Sony with parity on release date, content, features, upgrades, quality, and playability with the Xbox platform. But he also goes on to let us know that Microsoft is so headstrong on, listen, we're going to put this into written law that an adjudicator, if Call of Duty was not on par with Xbox and PlayStation's shoulder to shoulder, that adjudicator could logistically delay Call of Duty from releasing until the parity was in place. Think about what the power they're looking to give a third-party person or company or entity. They could delay Call of Duty. With that in play, is it likely to happen? Absolutely not. That is why Jim Ryan and Sony are a bunch of liars. Let's talk about it.
Lying, crying, dance moves, Jim Ryan.
Love it.
And I'm gonna tell you something right now. If you look at it, and remember, it's been a couple months. I changed it to, after my Chiefs won, I said, crispy of logic. Why do I say that? Because you have to look at the landscape, how it transpired, who has been the market leader, who is the only one that is deciding to, I guess we call him lying, but I mean, it's like dancing around and saying, ha ha ha, I got you in this little spot. And then all of a sudden Microsoft's like, nah, bro, no, you don't. And how about all those times that, we've seen content, parody. That's what I love about what Microsoft did. Parody. How many times we've seen Call of Duty content only be on PlayStation? Whatever way, shape, or form you want to look at it, whether it be skins, game modes, all other kinds of stuff. How do we look at that? Did we hate it? Sure, absolutely. So for Microsoft to be like, nah, bro, we're buying the whole shebang, not like Sony. And no, we're going to share it with you. We don't care. You know why they don't care? Because Microsoft has no install base compared to PlayStation, especially in these relevant talking points. CMA, EU, and it's 80-20. People can cry about it and say, oh, they told the truth. But yeah, they did, because it's the truth. And guess what? They're just facts. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it hurts you to hear that all of the talking points that have been brought up for the past few months, that finally the regulators are saying, nah, enough's enough. I'm done with this. Okay, let's look to the future. Let's look to cloud gaming. Oh, well, shoot. 10-year deal with NVIDIA. Boosteroid. Dude, like, there's probably going to be more. And like I brought up with you, you have to purchase the game. But you can use that.
Yeah, you can't play the game for free. You actually have to buy the game wherever you would buy your game.
And you have to use that. It's perfectly fine. I mean, hey, let's support the devs and all this stuff. Well, I've seen more developers say that if it wasn't for Game Pass, their game would be nothing. Okay? I've seen way too many. And there is a few that are like, no, I don't like that. But I almost feel like Sony's just like, nah, you got to say something bad. And that's where we're at, because you have to realize that as I sit here gaming for 30 freaking years, and once I was 10 years old, I started realizing what was going on. And then Sony just came, and Sony was the darling. You have to understand that. Sony was impeccable. They had so many games. I'd walk into Blockbuster, PS1 would have an aisle and a half, and Sega Saturn would have half an aisle. And I'd say, wow, well, sucks to be Sega. Even though I had a Saturn, I said, I guess I'm buying a PlayStation next. And I did that for years. You know what I mean? And we rented games, people. I see a lot of dummies sitting here acting like Game Pass is something new. No, it's just a new experience, and me not having to walk down to the damn store. That's the way I look at it. Other than that, yeah, you can call me renting games. Guess what? I have no problem with it. Been doing it my whole life. So what are they saying? They're saying nothing. Everything that they have said has just been brought to fruition as a nothing burger, including the regulatory CMA themselves. You saw Microsoft just call them out, basically acting like Nintendo doesn't exist. It is a gaming console. I don't care what you say. If you told me that the Steam Deck is a gaming console, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say, yeah, that's the whole purpose of the damn thing. Besides the point, you're going to say that, the Switch doesn't have the graphical fidelity and all this. Well, that's what consoles do. That's, like, God forbid Microsoft's like, Nintendo, here's a 10-year deal. God forbid we're going to release Call of Duty here. I mean, is that a bad thing? I mean, are we at that point? Are we not thinking logically and saying more games to more people? And as long as if Sony don't want to accept any deal ever with Call of Duty, whose fault is that?
That
They've
would be
already
on
offered
Sony,
it.
brother. Yeah.
They already offered it. I mean, you can say what you want. Oh, Microsoft, big corporation. They buy, dude. I've seen so many companies buy things, destroy them, make them better, whatever else. All I'll say is at this point, from what I've seen from Microsoft, is that you're going to get a better Call of Duty. It might not, it might not be within the next few years, but eventually you're going to get a better Call of Duty because they're going to back it up. If you're really if you love Call of Duty that much, and I love Gears and you love Halo, what I'm saying? Like if you're going to get a better product potentially, because I'll tell you right now, you can say what you want, but look at this gameplay. I mean, the gameplay is there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you could say that it didn't have enough content, all this. Well, you got to work that stuff out. Also, it's now free to play on the multiplayer. So give them a break. Like, they're trying to push through the door. And then the regulatory commissions are like, no, you can't do that because Sony don't like it. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, Sony doesn't really have an argument after you've laid out all the cards and said, nah, this is not just a straight, this is a royal flush. Like, we got this. And the one last thing I want to say, if you turned it around, and I said this on next podcast on Thursday, I said, if you turned it around and Sony was buying ABK.
Oh, dude, it'd be 100% exclusive. There's no doubt about it.
No, I don't even want to go there. I want to say if we were, so Microsoft is Sony and Sony is buying ABK. The problem is that Microsoft would have a leg to stand on because they are not the market leader. Okay. And they haven't had 20 plus years of dominance. And we consider them a monopoly in their back arguments. So Microsoft would actually have an argument against this. And that's where I go and say, where's the logic? So if we now go back to reality where we're at, Microsoft is just asking to say, hey, we are trying to do different things. That's all we're asking for. And they're going to take a hit in some way. They're going to say, we have to give up this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, are they doing anything wrong?
No,
they're not.
That's the absolute truth. They are doing absolutely nothing wrong, and they're bringing this game, Call of Duty, which again, I don't even care for multiplayer. It's just not my bag. Listen, Mag, I want to bring you in on the conversation. I have another Florian Muller quote here, and this is where I think Sony is effed. The Microsoft filing that the CMA released today shows that the agency has spent a lot of time discussing access remedies with Microsoft, establish a certain criteria, and raise specific concerns, but they allowed for Microsoft to satisfactorily address all of them. This is good news for the deal. I think that I really do think that Sony has, and Jim Ryan specifically, has painted themselves into a corner. This is coming out of the CMA. This is their the biggest hurdle. What are your thoughts on this report?
Well, the thing is, they've already had this laid out before they even put this on the table. Before they even talked about this, before we even knew about it, they already had the concessions lined up. They already had every single angle covered. Otherwise, they wouldn't waste their time announcing it. That's something that we've always talked about. And we said it last year, Boom, when we talked on the phone, and and I called you, and then you already knew the news, of course, and you just went, generation over. And then we started talking. But you know what? By that point, they already had a laundry list this long of everything, of every angle that was going to get covered. Because you know what they did? When they went back 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and they started talking about it, what did they do? Satya, I'm sure Satya, and of course, and Phil went right to the lawyers and said, write out every concession, look at every single angle, cover it all before we even talk about this with the public. And what did they do? They went back, they got it done, and then they put it on the table. They opened up their little manila folders and they looked inside and they said, all right, you know what? This is rock solid. It's going to be a bumpy road. It's going to take a while, but it's rock solid. Go ahead, Phil, announce it to the world. This is no surprise to anybody. It shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. And I don't get super excited about it because we already knew that this was going to happen. That's why this deal was 100% bulletproof. There are times where people are like, is it going to happen? Is it not? Of course it's going to happen. There are literally no legal grounds to stand on that it will not happen, right? But anyways, the point is, yes, it's just coming to fruition more and more for the public to see now. And now, of course, the CMA, you know what? Listen, the CMA, the FTC, they've got to cross all their T's. They got to dot all their I's because it's a $70 billion deal. They do not want any scrutiny against them to make them look even worse. And you know what I'm saying? So like they don't want anybody to be able to look at it and say they didn't do their due diligence. They just passed it without thinking about it. So that when the next situation comes along, then they're going to say, well, you just let Microsoft do it. Why the hell can't we do it? What it does is that it sets a precedence, right? Where that anybody who wants to make an acquisition of this size or some kind of a merger of some sorts, instead of just opening up the floodgates, they're going to want to make sure that those companies have done their due diligence and that it's actually something rock solid before they bring it towards these committees. That's what I'm getting at. So the point is that they have to put the screws to Microsoft. They have to. But in the end, little by you see how they're drip feeding us? Every week they drip feed us. They're doing that on purpose. They're not just going to swing open the doors like a saloon in the Wild West and be like, come on in, boys. It's not going to happen that way. They're just going to let you a little bit at a time so that everybody else, not Microsoft, any other company out there looking to acquire something or merge with something, they say, oh, guys, before we even bother, let's make sure we have everything under control. It's good for the consumers, good for the economy and everything else before we even bother bringing it to the CMA and wasting everybody's time, or the FTC in that case as well, right? So that's what it is. This is a cautionary tale. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that all of this is a cautionary tale for other companies in the future and say, listen, if you want to get it done, do your due diligence, cross all your T's, dot all your I's. Now, I wanted to talk about the mobile stuff. You guys have all said it. I don't have to go back into details. I'm sure anybody saw some people saw Brad Sam's video on Monday about the mobile app store that says keep your eyes open for March 2024. Right. Yep. So that's where they're talking about. That's where Brad Sams was talking about launching a mobile app or whatever to rival Apple and Google. It's funny that, what we hear about today with Epic and everything coming out, talking about their support for Microsoft. Well, it's funny because, when you have a common enemy, all of a sudden you find yourself with common allies, right? So you look at the situation, you've got Microsoft and Epic. Who are their common enemies? Google and Apple, right? So of course Epic wants to, go shoulder to shoulder with Microsoft. What a great! It's like walking, like you get bullied on your way to school every day, and then the guy who's 6'4" is walking like, "Hey, do you mind if I walk with you to school?" Those bullies ain't gonna bother him anymore, right? So this is exactly what Microsoft is. That 6'4" guy. What? Yeah, cool, man. You can hang out with me. It's all good. No one's going to bother you. And that's exactly what they're going to do. And so I could see a great partnership. And by the way, this is something that really works for the future, especially with what we saw with the Unreal today. Okay. Look at the possibilities of the future of what could happen with an app store that's launched by Microsoft with Fortnite's future, for example. They do a partnership with Microsoft where maybe not exclusivity, but certainly perks and all kinds of different things. Hey, if you've got the Microsoft App Store, whatever the hell they're going to call it, you're going to get specific perks for the new Fortnite game that Mag wants. But anyways, you get like all these things that, you know what I'm saying? Like you get all these different perks. If you have the App Store, download Fortnite through the App Store, you get all these perks and this, that, and the other thing. And then of course, the utilization of the Unreal Engine 5 for Microsoft Studios and everything else. And then they can work all their little financials behind the scenes. This is a win-win for them, and it's a win-win for everybody else that's not Google and Apple. Google and Apple are going to continue making billions of dollars. It's never going to stop. And it's not even about competing with them. At the end of the day, they really don't want to fight with these guys. They just want a piece of the pie. That's all it is. Everybody wants a piece of the pie so that everybody's eating well. And, and you're making your billions of dollars so that you can continue to move forward, continue to grow, and continue to make money so that everybody can get that golden parachute one day and retire and be happy and whatever else, right? So that's all it is at the end of the day. The other thing is, I was going to say, you remember when, we've said it a million times ad nauseum. You remember when Phil said during the Xbox One era, talked about the 2 billion gamers and everybody laughed. Right?
Yeah, they clowned them for it. Yeah,
they clowned them for it, and then all of a sudden they're not clowning anymore. When they see that if they're about to launch, a mobile app, you're talking about access to billions of people right away, right? That was something Mav was talking about too. And then the other thing is that the antiquated business practices of Sony and Nintendo, they're still going to do fine. They're still going to make their money. They're not going anywhere just yet, and they'll evolve somewhat. But the thing is, they do hang on to that, as I said, the antiquated business practices of console only, go to store, buy game, stick game in console, play, right? Yeah. They're not. They made an attempt earlier on with the Gaikai and everything else. Sony did anyway, and it's just it just didn't pan out because they don't have the infrastructure. That's the thing. It's like opening up a restaurant with no money. When you open up a restaurant, you have to have enough money to run for 3 years with no customers. That's the only way you can survive. You can't open up a restaurant with no money and say, well, where is everybody? And then they shut down. That's why one in every two restaurants shut down. It's the same thing with here. Sony tried to launch Gaikai without any backing. The problem is you need time in order to build that kind of ecosystem. Microsoft built the ecosystem first and then launched into the cloud gaming and everything else, right? So that's what I see there. Whereas, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself like Sony has in the past. And, you pigeon yourself where it's a console only or whatever. It'll be the same as renting movies at Blockbuster. It's good for now, not going to be good in the future. So they're going to have to get on board, or in the very least, if they do not have the money to create the infrastructure to do it, then they're going to have to lean on a company like, guess what? Probably Apple or Google or Amazon in order to be able to, move forward. I understand Sony has a future with the Microsoft cloud servers, right? However, we don't know if that's going to be for their gaming division or that's for something else entirely. Who the hell knows what they're up to? All I know is I remember seeing a picture of them shaking hands a couple of years ago and not a word of it since.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we'll see where it's going to go. It'll be interesting to see. But at the end of the day, listen, it's all coming together. It's coming together a lot, like properly now. They're drip feeding everything because, like I said, they don't want to open the floodgates and they don't want to make anybody else too brave to be able to come forward and say, well, we're going to get this. We're going to buy this. We're going to acquire this. We're going to merge with that. They don't want that. So like I said, they're making Microsoft the example and they're putting the screws to them so that everybody else, again, like I said, a cautionary tale moving forward so that everybody else can see what happens. But at the end of the day, it's going to pass. But it's all good news, and it's great to see that the community is understanding that this is a positive thing. The gaming community and, of course, the developing community and the publishing community is seen as a positive thing. And moving forward, it's going to be a great thing for everybody involved. So anyways, I'm excited. As always, I'm excited to see, guess what? You know what? Next week, we're going to get drip fed something else, and we're going to be right here on this channel talking about it. So, stay tuned next week till the next drip feed from the ABK deal, right? So it's kind of wild and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, again, the biggest deal I've ever seen in gaming. Dutch, I want to bring you in on something. Before I mentioned the adjudicator, I have the exact quote here. Microsoft's remedy proposal to the CMA even envisions this. In serious cases of non-compliance, the adjudicator will have the power to delay the release of Call of Duty until appropriate steps have been taken to ensure compliance. Thus, no release without parity, period. I don't know how much more you need to put this in stone. A 10-year deal, parity, backed up, literally written into law that if you do break it, you're going to get would they actually have the game delayed because they couldn't make parity? It just crushes. Like these kind of statements that we're hearing come out of the CMA as response from Microsoft about Sony's, I think it literally crushes every complaint Sony has, which is why I think Jim Ryan and Sony are effed, because this scorched earth mentality that they have done, they're burning bridges left, right, and center. And if the deal didn't go through, does anyone in this panel, does anyone on the nearly 700 people that are here think that that Activision would actually deal with them and give them marketing rights. It's to me, it doesn't make any sense. I think that these Remedy proposals are the nails in Jim Ryan coffin.
Yeah, I mean, obviously to us, the remedies look great, and to the EU obviously don't have any qualms with it anymore anyway.
Right.
And that looks like the EU are going to pass it with the remedies already presented. The CMA, on the other hand, very much, and this is having spoken to a friend of mine, Luke, who is
Luke, he knows his stuff, he's
a mergers and acquisitions lawyer, so he's dealt with the CMA. And he said the only thing is, and this is the only thing, is the CMA much prefer structural because they don't want to have to sit and monitor things when they've closed, which is why they push for structural remedies over behavioral remedies. So the behavioral remedies are there, and the stipulation that the CMA would be able to stamp their authority on it or have an adjudicator stamp their authority on it if there was an issue is both a good thing and kind of as like the CMA going, oh, do we really have to monitor it after launch? Like, do I have to? Like, we'd much prefer to just have a cut and dry, just get this thing done, and then we don't have to talk about it anymore. As opposed to like every couple of months, Sony goes to them and goes, yeah, but it's not parity. And then they have to go and get an adjudicator to go and check. And just actually, it is parity. It is absolutely fine. They don't want to have to do this tittle-tattling all the time. So it's both a good thing and a thing where the CMA might look at it and just go, would much rather it be cut and dry so we don't have to come back to this in a few months' time when someone's complaining about something. So, yeah, as much as it sounds like absolutely, perfect, the CMA would just rather cut and dry on it, I think. Although, it's not to say they won't accept it and say, listen, yes, we'll agree to that because we don't
Microsoft has said that they will pick up the tab on that. The CMA
of course. And to be fair, I don't think if they went to CAT and said, listen, the only reason the CMA have said no to this is because they don't want to do the work on the back end. I don't think they'd have, in terms of what we would class as procedural, because obviously with CAT, it's it is the only method of taking that. It isn't even to court; it's a tribunal. Right. What CAT would do is essentially just send it back to the CMA to correct their findings. If the procedure hasn't been corrected, or if it has been corrected and it still comes to the same procedure, then that's it. That's just the final decision. But at the same time, I don't think they would get to the point where they would take it to CAT. They would say, listen, we've offered this remedy. This remedy states that if we were to fail, they would be able to take action. I think CAT would kind of look at that as a procedural issue and just say, listen, they've offered the remedy that would work. Whether or not you want to do the work is benign. Essentially, they've offered the ability for you to interrupt if something were to go wrong, or if they weren't uphold their part of the bargain. But the only reason you've declined is because you don't want to put in the legwork for it. I don't think they would have a case with CAT and they would make them revisit it if it went to that. So I think it should be okay now. I think my status still is probably about maybe 75-25 to percentage of closing to not closing. So it's still very much in favor of it closing, but I still think the CMA are going to be the outlier if they're going to be anybody with any complaints from this, even with those remedies in place, mainly because they're such sticklers for wanting just structural cut and dry end of. They don't want to have to come and monitor things on the back end. That's it. So yeah, it's great. The EU will have no problems. The FTC, I don't think have any grounds whatsoever as it stands anyway. I think just the CMA are going to be sticklers for wanting cut and dry over having to go and band-aid things back afterwards.
Well, I mean, listen, I think that Microsoft is doing everything in their power, to get this done. They have offered everything front, back, and center. I honestly think they could offer any more, to be honest with you. I think that at this point, it's ridiculous how much
and they've already ruled out divestiture. They've said absolutely
that's not going to happen. They're not cutting off Call of Duty from Activision or Activision from the deal. You can't do that because if you how do you do that? 8 studios make Call of Duty. Do you cut off some of the studio and send it send it away to be bought by someone else. You can't do that. So yeah, it would be impossible. I mean, listen,
and even divesting the IP doesn't make any sense, because who would pick up the IP?
Who buys it then? Who takes on
for how much money, right?
Yeah,
Now,
and then who's good enough to develop it
like
and make sure it
as
remains as good as it has been? Like, we've all got issues with Call of Duty in some way, shape, or form. It's not the perfect game, but it's a game that, as it stands right now, there is no others that play like a Call of Duty or falls into that segment. And there's no other developers that you can look at ID and say they'll make an awesome Doom, but do they make an awesome Call of Duty? Probably not. Would you look at Halo and say, would they make an awesome Call of Duty? Probably not.
Right.
Like, Activision make Call of Duty, so divesting the IP away from Activision wouldn't rectify the issue either, because then you're just left with a dormant IP, and then nobody plays Call of Duty, and how's that fixing the issue?
Right. Yeah.
So,
no, I agree. I agree. Listen, let me catch up on 2 super chats that popped in here, and then we'll get Hargeet's comment that he wanted to say. Risk it for the biscuit. Generous friend of the program, all the way from Australia, drops an $8 super chat and says, the PlayStation Gamers lawsuit got thrown out too. Don't forget, their arguments echo almost word for word the FTC's own arguments. A prosecutor of what? It'll happen. Yeah, I mean, listen, we actually, I don't know, I'm not sure who actually said that, but yeah, I think it was maybe Hargeet that might have said that.
Yeah.
That's why the FTC doesn't have a leg to stand on, because if that got thrown out there, it is going to get thrown out in federal court. I don't even think it makes the federal court, to be honest with you. I really don't. Hargeet, what do you want to add to the conversation before get to the last super chat and we'll get everyone out of here?
Yeah, there's 2 things. One was, Microsoft has made the case that you can't actually have an SLC based on one game, right? So they're trying to take away the leverage entirely and say, even if Call of Duty was taken away entirely from PlayStation, it does not harm them in a way that kills them. It does not account for enough of the gaming world to say that this one game will totally control the industry and kill off any given competitor, right? They've made that case several times, and they've made some compelling arguments. There's games like Steam. The top 10 doesn't include COD. The top 10 games played on Steam does not include COD, even though it's on Steam, right? You're like, well, those games exist, and they have a market share that's massive, and Sony has these games, so why is that a problem, right? And so they made enough of an argument, and I'm sure you all saw that graph, right? And they're like, look at the amount of games these guys have. You're telling me that they're not going to sustain with one game going away? It's a baloney story. So they made that, and then and then the other one was one of those market participants that made a comment was 4J Studios, who does the Minecraft. They make the ports, right? And one of the things they said was, during the phase of Microsoft ownership, we have never been under any pressure to favor Microsoft-owned formats. Indeed, we were actively encouraged by Microsoft to develop unique content, such as the Mario Mashup Pack for Nintendo formats. Microsoft have also brought significant stability and rigor to our contractual and commercial relationships, and have been both fair and professional in all our dealings with them. So, furthering the idea that they are not going to back down from doing the right thing, Microsoft is going to make that game as good as it can be on whatever platform they decide to put it on, right? So they're not going to just suddenly say the Xbox version is 40% better and has 80% more content. No, it's going to be the same game. And if you have features on your box, they're gonna take advantage of it. So the haptics and whatnot in the DualSense, they'll take advantage of it, right? So they do not seem to be the ones having issues. Minecraft works better on PS5 than it does on Xbox. What does that tell you, right? So it is what it is, right? They are fully committed. When they say they're committed, right? So I think they've given enough to the CMA to say this is not an issue. So
I love it. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, one last super chat that came in from generous friend of the program. Brett Bingham drops a generous $5 super chat and says, "What's the matter, Jimbo? Did Uncle Phil slump you?" I mean, I hope not. But listen, real quick before we do outros, before we get everyone on out of here, the merch store that everyone has been asking for has in fact launched. So what I want to do is I want to quickly just run the ad. Now, this is a commercial that was made by a very good friend of the program, Sean Labrie, incredible artists. he's one of the artists that that helped build the merch store that we have out there now. There's 10 designs with several that are in development right now. As soon as this thing is done processing, and I should have done this before the show. Here it goes. Check it out, folks. Again, right now we're running a special on teespring.com. If you buy any merch whatsoever and you type in the code BoomStick in all caps, you get 15% off of your total purchase. Check it out, folks. Let me know what you think. And there you go, folks. There's my shill. I had this, listen, people have been asking for it, and and you know what? I was a nervous wreck launching it 2 Saturdays ago, and we've gotten really, really good engagement. So people are really happy with the designs. I can't thank everybody enough that's already bought something. 4 of the shirts that I bought, because obviously I have to advertise my own stuff, came in today. I am wearing the Primetime Gaming as we speak. You really can't see because of the camera. But yeah, listen, again, go to teespring.com. In fact, if you go to my Twitter account, it's pinned at the top, and the link is right there. Again, BoomStick in all caps, 15% off your order. But let's get everyone out of here, folks. Mav, thanks so much for joining us, brother. You did great as always. And listen, we're looking forward to you and your channel, well, your network, if you will, of shows that you have each and every week. Specifically, my favorite is PM in the PM. I really do like what you guys have done. You guys are and have a dynamic duo with Pong. So talk about it, brother. Sell your brand.
Yeah, thanks, Boom. Thanks for having me. Always great to mix it up with everybody here. Your chat's always amazing as well. Looks like Jim's scrambling, and I am having fun with it. But besides that, everybody tune in to PM in the PM tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Pong Soul and I are going to have a blast. We'll be breaking all this stuff down. We have another show Fridays, Xbox Ultimate Podcast at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And then Mondays, Fun Speculation Podcast, also at 10 p.m. Eastern. And everybody here is amazing. Thank you all for having me. This was fun.
Thank you, brother. Thanks so much for being here as always. Hargeet Chani, sell the brand of your incredible. I want to say brothers, because really what Asa and Gaz do at Game On Daily is fun. It's entertainment. If anyone is as old as I am and they remember like Oscar and Felix from The Odd Couple, well, that's exactly. And Hargeet, you're laughing because you know I'm telling the truth. That's exactly what Asa and Gaz from Game On Daily are. Talk about it, brother.
Yeah, and Gaz is kind of catching up. Coming out of XNC, he's trying to catch up with work and stuff, and we'll be doing more stuff. So hopefully, we'll be doing more content, not just sauce videos, but other things as well.
Yes.
So look forward to some more stuff from there, and then catch me on RDX. I seem to be there every week, and apparently I may be becoming a member. We'll see. But 8 o'clock Eastern on Tuesdays. And, of course, catch me here on Primetime Gaming every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as well.
Appreciate that very much. And, folks, I just dropped the link for the merch store at Teespring. Go check it out. Let me know what you guys think. And, of course, Hargeet, thank you for always being here and giving us the logic bombs that you drop as per the norm. Wandering Dutch, sell your brand, brother. And listen, don't worry. I'm currently working on the video that I have to submit to be a part of the indie showcase. He's not doing one, folks. He's doing 2 this year, and he has some pretty big stuff going on in the background. I'm so proud to be a part of it. Talk about it, brother.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, the work's begun on the Community Indie Showcase 2023, the first of 2. Of course, we're going to get some awesome creators back from last year, as always. The creators that are taking part in the first showcase are fully aware of what's required of them now and by when. So everything's already in the works, the overlays, etc. I've already got a few lined up for the second that couldn't make the first. And of course, when I get closer to the second one, I'll be contacting others that are going to be part of the second showcase as well. But we've already got some special guests lined up for this one, some awesome developers, some new footage and new games that are being kind of showcased at the indie showcase as well. So that's going to be absolutely awesome. And that is on the 22nd, I think it is. Sorry, 22nd of April, which is the Saturday at 6 p.m. GMT. That should be, by the time daylight savings comes around for the UK, be 2 p.m. 1 p.m. Eastern. So nice early afternoon on the Saturday there for the Yanks. And for the UK, of course, late afternoon, nice early evening showcase for yourself there. And it'll be around the 2-ish hour marks, but over 70 games showcased, including new reveals and some special guests and some giveaways, as we always do every year. So it's going to be awesome. But other than that, of course, you can find me everywhere at Wondering Dutch, right here every Wednesday evening on Prime Time. Just before prime time, you can find me on the Midweek Mix-Up podcast, which is my podcast over at Wondering Dutch on YouTube. And of course, you can find me on the World of Gaming with Boxenberger as well. So, yes, thank you again. Awesome show as always, gents. A pleasure.
Appreciate it very much, brother. And Traybone408_ drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, studios that want to stay on Call of Duty do Call of Duty and spin-offs. Yeah, I mean, listen, you're going to see the Treyarchs, you're going to see the Infinity Wards, and a few of the others be the standard fare for, of course, Call of Duty. But I want to see Toys for Bob make a game that's in their wheelhouse, a platformer, i.e. the new Banjo. I'm just saying. Jonas the Dad drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, great show as always. Panel crushed it. Thanks to all. Well, thank you, Jonas, for being here, and thank you for the kind words. Crispy Bomb, let's get you on out of here, brother. Where could people find you on social media, but more importantly, on other podcasts?
You and Banjo, bro. Like,
listen, I'm going to die on this hill. I want a new Banjo, damn it.
and I'll tell you right now. See, this is where you go and say you got to be a gamer. My girl would love that, and I've never liked Banjo. I'm not a platformer. I can't do it. But man, she's damn good at them, and that's probably why I don't play him, especially now. Because she makes me look bad, and you don't ever want to look bad as a man. I'm just saying, it's spicy as usual. I mean, Carolina Reaper might have come out tonight. I don't know. I mean, the chat's gonna have to tell me. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to you, gentlemen. Shout out to K Asante and Everborn Saga. Hope all is well.
Yep.
At Chris Baum on Twitter, Chris Baum 28 Xbox Live. Find me on Retro Renegades Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We got Primetime Gaming Wednesday, 7 p.m. and the next podcast, 8 p.m. Thursdays. We'll see you then.
All right, brother. Thanks so much for being here. And, of course, a big shout-out to all of the Super Chats and the channel memberships that continue to come in. We're getting new channel members every day. Super Chats are coming out for every show. We cannot thank you enough. Again, thanks to the incredible artistic patience and talent of Sean Labrie. If you look at the channel now, if you go to YouTube, you see that it has a unified look. The intros match the thumbnails. The thumbnails match the overlays. The overlays match the YouTube channel. That all costs money. And Sean is incredibly reasonable, but it still costs money. And when you have a lot of work to do, you got to pay. And we are helped out by the Super Chats and by the channel memberships. We do give a lot back. We gave away over $3,500 last year, and we're going to at least match it. One of the big things that we're doing, that we announced at the beginning of the year, is when Stalker 2 is released, my wife and I, Mrs. Boom, are buying, outright buying 15 copies and giving those away to anyone that is in the chat the day we do the live stream. Half of which are going to go to channel members first, because that's fair. And if you're just in the chat while we're showing a preview of the game and gameplay, it's going to be a special Stalker 2 60-minute show. We're giving away a total of 15 copies as our small way of giving back to the studio that has been displaced because of the Ukrainian and Russia war. And that's just one of the big contests that we're doing. We did a small one a couple of weeks ago of $100, and we do that throughout the year. We'll just, hey, listen, let's get 4 gift cards and just do a contest. But some of the bigger ones are going to be happening, and we can't do any of these things without your help, because obviously I'm retired, and the as great as the retirement is, it has its limitations and a roof. So a shout out to everyone that consistently donates through Super Chats and, of course, through channel memberships. And I will close out tonight's show with something, folks, that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son, I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.